Okay. So, Chair Delagnew,
Present.
Vice Chair Hecht,
Present.
Commissioner Humayun,
Present.
Commissioner Liu,
Present.
Commissioner Texler, Commissioner Van Rees,
Present.
Commissioner Whedon. So let the record indicate that Chair Delagnew, Vice Chair Hecht, Commissioner Humayun, Commissioner Liu, Commissioner Van Rees are present, Commissioner Texler and Commissioner Whedon are absent.
Actually, Commissioner Texler may be on the line now.
Yeah, I'm here, Anu.
Okay.
Let me rename myself.
Okay, so let the record indicate that Commissioner Texler is also present. So we have a quorum, 6 commissioners present.
Thank you, Ranu. So do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
I don't
Raise
see
your
any.
hand if you are a member of the public and want to speak about an item not on the agenda. I don't see anyone right now. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the first agenda item tonight, the Environmental Commission minutes from last meeting in June. Do commissioners have any questions, comments on the meeting minutes as they stand?
When's the first one? I will get you, Jonathan. This is 2 weeks, then brushing 2 weeks. Then
No? Who wants to make a motion?
I'll move approval of the June minutes.
A second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair Delagnew,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hecht,
Yes.
Commissioner Humayun,
Yes.
Commissioner Liu,
Yes.
Commissioner Whedon is no absent. Commissioner Texler made the motion. Commissioner Van Rees seconded.
Thank you, Ranu.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you. All right, so we have, I think she's here, Aida Sherman. Welcome. Welcome to the Commission's meeting. We wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself since we're going to be working together for the next few months and years, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, Chair Delagnew and Vice Chair Hecht and Environmental Commissioners. I am Aida Ferman, the Director of the Environmental Services and Utilities Department. This new department went into effect July 1st, 2022. It has been a great pleasure working for the City of Los Altos these past 15 years. I work in the Engineering Services Department, and I'm very excited and honored to be the director of this new department. And I wanted to take the opportunity to mention that there are 3 divisions in this new department, and one of the divisions is the Environmental Sustainability, the Sustainability Division, which consists of 2 positions. One is the Sustainability Coordinator, and the second position is the Sustainability Manager. The city is currently advertising and recruiting for the Sustainability Coordinator position, and I will provide a status update under item 6 of the meeting agenda on the recruitment for the Sustainability Coordinator position. Also, I wanted to let you know that there's a budget allocation this fiscal year for the implementation of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, the CAP. And lastly, I want to thank all of you for your service and all your efforts. We really appreciate your efforts that you do for the commission, for the community, city organization. So thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Aida. Thank you for coming and making this introduction. Do you have any questions, commissioners?
Just want to welcome Ida and looking forward to working with you.
Thank you very
Commissioner
much, Commissioner.
Humayun.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hamayun. Thank you.
Same here. Welcome, Aida.
Thank you, Commissioner Liu. Thank you. Shopping.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in. The Reach Cut Subcommittee has already had a chance to work with Aida, which has been a pleasure. So thank you for help thus far, and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you, Commissioner Texler. Thank you.
I just have a couple very simple questions. First of all, again, welcome again, and I think we're going to be working together for quite a while. I wanted to ask you about the schedule for the hiring of the coordinator, sustainability coordinator. If you have any timeline, or are we close to having one? What's the status?
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and cover that now instead of item number 6. I was
Yeah.
going to expand on that. So I want to let you know that we received a great number of applications. As of the end of last week, our HR department is going to be going through those applications to ensure that they meet the minimum qualifications. And then they're going to give me a status update in the next couple of weeks. So that's where we are right now. Thank you.
Okay, and then the coordinator will report to the manager, I'm guessing?
That's correct. And then the manager position is vacant this time. We'll be also recruiting for that position in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
That'd be great. And it'd be great to have 2 dedicated people to working with us. And working
Absolutely.
on all the actions, the CAP actions and other things we're trying to move forward. So it's going to be very exciting for
Yes,
us.
looking forward to that, filling those 2 positions. And again, thank you for your efforts. Some of you or most of you have volunteered attending some regional meetings and taking on additional tasks during this difficult time when these vacant positions, and the staff shortage at the city. So I just wanted to let you know that your efforts are appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Aida. All right, do we have any more questions or should we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, all good. So do we have someone from Greentown? Is Gary Hayden or someone else from Greentown attending?
I'm also with, I'm Betty Chin, Los Altos.
Okay, thank you, Betty. So the next agenda item is the roadmap to a Trademaster plan, and the Greentown is going to tell us about what they were able to gather in terms of best practices and what's going on right now. Betty, it's your turn.
Oh, my turn?
Oh.
Okay. Well, I live up in the Highlands where there's quite a few trees by the country club.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Are you with Greentown?
Well, actually, they asked me to speak on behalf of saving existing trees.
So if I may interject, Greentown has a presentation and I believe Farida Abdullah is going to be presenting, and after there can be a comment period.
Okay,
So
fine.
I have shared the screen share function with you, Farida. So if you want to start your presentation.
Okay, I'll be presenting with my partner Ellie too.
Oh, okay, got
From
it.
my computer.
Are you able to find the function?
Yes, but I'm not sure why I'm still not able to share. I think it might be a problem from my side.
Okay, I could share and you can tell me when to
Would it be okay if my partner shares it instead? I think it might be easier since she knows when to like change the slides.
That's fine.
Okay. It's Ellie.
I'm able to share now if that's all right. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Sorry, just one second. Okay. Roadmap to a Trademaster plan. Hello, this is presented by Greentown Summer Interns. We're participating in a 6-week internship. I'm Farida Abdulhaq. I'm a Los Altos High School student and a rising junior. I'm also part of the green team at my school. And this is?
I'm Ellie El-Fashawi. I'm a rising senior at Menlo School, and I'm also an intern for the 500 Trees campaign.
And our mentor is Gary Hedden.
So a little bit about our agenda. We're going to begin by briefly describing our work as interns, a part of Greentown. We're then going to dive into the elements of a good tree master plan. This is the main section of it. We're proposing a tree master plan that we feel is really important and crucial if we're wanting to achieve the goal of 10,000 trees by 2035. More specifically, we're going to be talking about the best practices, community resources, and later action steps that we all need to take.
So our work, we're part of specifically the 500 Trees campaign. And as some of you might know, we've already planted over 300 trees, and we're obviously looking to meet our 500 trees goal soon. One thing we noticed is that Los Altos has a goal of 10,000 trees by 2035 stated in the Climate Action and Adoption Plan, but there was no tree master plan to state how we're going to get there. So we began our work trying to create an outline to share with you today. And we did this by researching other master plans, and we also interviewed individuals involved in tree planting activities, city and county staff, as well as other entities to find the information that would be best included in the plan.
All right, so now we're going to dive into the elements of a good tree master plan. First, we think it's important to include some background information. So currently there are around 12,000 trees lining the streets of Los Altos, and obviously we'd like to increase that number. We do have some ordinances in place in regards to tree removal permits and the protection of heritage trees. However, we do have a couple more that we're wanting to propose. And as you definitely know, there's a climate action and adaptation plan in place.
So the purpose of the master plan, from a high level view, the purpose of it is to support increased canopy cover and sustainability. It would do this by doing a few main things: establishing goals over timeline. We'd hope that this timeline would end by 2035, which is the goal date for planting 10,000 trees as stated in the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. And it would not only state the goals, but we'd hope that it would show the challenges that we'd face moving forward and acknowledge the benefits we'd achieve by fulfilling these goals.
We're not going to talk about the benefits of canopy cover too much because you definitely know the benefits, the environmental, economic, and social.
So the goals and vision. We found 4 main goals that we think would be helpful to center the plan around. The top 3, we found them in the Climate Action and the Climate Action Plan, and the last one, we found it through the urban analysis that was done in 2016, published 2017. So the top 3 are planting 10,000 more trees by 2035, achieving carbon neutrality by 2035, increasing water efficient planning, and 4 is increasing species diversity. So we found this would be most helpful because through the tree inventory, we found that the top 3 species, they've exceeded the suggested 10% rule, which means right now we're struggling in regards to biodiversity.
Next, we think it's important to create a community survey. This was also included in various other plans of different cities. So 1, asking the community their perspective on the importance of trees, potential barriers that are stopping them from planting a tree, and recommendations on planting locations, because this is one of the problems that we're currently facing is where to plant trees, just because Los Altos has a fairly consistent canopy cover. So asking them their recommendations would be super beneficial. Also asking them about city communication and resources. How good of a job are we doing in providing them with the necessary resources? And then also the perspective on tree removal permits.
Funding. So there was an estimate in regards to increasing canopy cover in the Climate Action Plan, and that estimate was 3.6 million, around 3.6 million. And sorry, is anybody speaking? I'm not interrupting. Okay, I'll move forward then. So that is a very large number. So we hope to confirm this estimate and make sure that it includes maintenance costs, not only for our future trees, but also for existing trees. Currently, there are 3 funding sources listed. So CA Relief, CAL FIRE, CA Natural Resources Agency. Given how large of a number it is, we'd hope that we could find more sources for funding.
Next, we're going to talk more specifically about some best practices and highlights that we pulled from other tree master plans. We had proposed this idea and talked about it with members of the city and county of creating 2 separate plans, one that is technical for the staff and developers, and one that's more easily understandable for the community. We read through some other tree master plans and they're extremely long, and the average person would not be reading through that. And we think it's super important that the community has access to these resources so they can get involved as well. Creating a summary and a general overview of the document on the website, just so it's clear the purpose of the document. And then throughout, creating diagrams, tables, and maps to divide the area based on characteristics, pictures of different plants based on the area, and just drawings and photographs to make it more interesting.
So currently Los Altos has many tree lists. Greentown has a tree list, Canopy has a tree list, the city of Los Altos has a tree list, and this is specifically the one that I'm talking about right now. So this tree list that the city has is called Street Tree List. And we believe it would be important to update this list moving forward, given that 29% of the trees on there are on Canopy's not recommended list. So number 4 is future goals with specific actions. As important as it is to create goals, we're not going to be able to move forward unless we state specific actions to reach these goals, which we believe the East Palo Alto plan did best. And this is an example, the one that you're seeing in front of you right now. And some of the specific actions that they chose to include were setting a certain number of public trees and a certain number of private trees to be planted every year as a goal.
Next, we're going to talk about community resources, which is a really large portion of this plan. We're wanting to create accessible information so that the community knows how they're able to get involved and help out, answering questions like where to best get a tree and which trees to plant. Like Farida mentioned, there is a tree list, but it's really important that we update this tree list. We do have access to some of these, so we'll provide you with the links where and how to plant a tree and how to maintain a tree, like pruning, watering, etc.
So moving forward, as important as it is to create a master plan for planting trees, we believe there's some other steps that would also be important. And these are the action steps that we listed out right here. So number 1 is Tree City USA application. We believe that Los Altos already meets the requirements to become a tree city. So it would just be great if we could fill out the application for that. And that would involve the mayor among other city staff. And part of it would be celebrating Arbor Day. And I believe this year we started celebrating it with the mayor planting a tree. So I believe moving forward, that would be great if we could do that. It not only recognizes the environmental initiatives and the environmental efforts that have already been done within the city, but it also brings attention to the environmental issues still going on. Number 2 is updating the city tree list, as mentioned previously, the reason for that. 3 is updating educational resources. The City of Los Altos website does have many resources, but we believe updating them would be helpful and just including more links to information maybe on the Canopy website. And the information seems to be scattered around the City of Los Altos website. So maybe just creating one area where the citizens can find that information would be helpful. Something else would be hosting more community engagement events. 4 is finding a way to monitor the progress so we can make sure we're staying on track throughout the timeline. 5 is evaluating different funding sources. As mentioned previously, the cost estimate is very large, so finding the best funding sources and as many as possible would be most helpful. Step 6 and 7 are possible ordinances that could be put in place in the future to increase canopy cover. So 6 is requiring trees to be planted as a condition for building new developments throughout the city. And it would vary depending on how large the property is. 7 is a mandatory parking lot shade cover. And we found that the City of Sacramento already has one in place, and it requires that new parking lots have 50% of their parking lots shaded by trees within 15 years of being created. So we believe that implementing something similar would be helpful, and it would also increase canopy cover because parking lots seem to be the main gap given how consistent canopy cover is throughout the city.
Here are a preliminary list of our sources. We have a bunch more, but we'll include that in the final report. Thank you so much for giving us the time to present this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Farida. Thank you very much for this presentation. I'm going to open it for questions for commissioners to ask you questions. Gary has his hand up. Do you want to say something in addition to what Farida and Eli told us?
Thank you, interns. That was really well done. Of course, I'm biased. I think the really takeaway here, and they mentioned it, is that with a fairly substantial goal of planting 10,000 trees, we need a good tree master plan, and that's going to help us achieve that goal. So we're looking forward to Greentown is to continue to work with you on this. The interns are going to now write up a report, and that will be available for you in a couple of weeks, and that'll include more than what you saw on the slides tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Questions, commissioners?
Now, is that the right time for someone to talk?
After the questions by the commissioners.
Oh, okay, got it, okay.
I just have one comment. I think that it's, our community are well known for many trees around us, but I have also observed dying trees over the years.
There it is.
So
Yes.
I think that one of the things is that I think, yes, by considering native plants as a priority because we're aware of the water shortage issue. The other thing I feel we probably need to devote some of the effort is to preventing the tree dying. They could be disease, and we may want to develop some kind of monitoring program to preserve, because we all know it takes decades for us to have the beautiful canopy tree around us, our community. And I think not only we want to plant new ones, we also want to preserve what we have.
Thank you, Commissioner Liu.
Can echo some of what Commissioner Liu just mentioned, because Rashina and I met with Peter Gollinger from Palo Alto's team, Urban Forestry, and he mentioned that previously there's been cities that have tried to set specific goals of how many trees to plant, when sometimes maintenance is a more important step than saying exactly how many trees, because ultimately the goal is consistent cover. So I think that is a true point to what any urban forest master plan will have purview of.
Yeah, and I'll just add my thanks to both of you, Farida and Ellie, for putting together this thorough report. And I look forward to seeing the report with the details on the links, because I know you guys have done a fair amount of research on master plans around the area, as well as at some distance, across the country and continent as well. So look forward to seeing that. And certainly, I guess I don't know if now's a good time or if there's further place in the agenda to talk about, just to mention the urban forest master plan or subcommittee that Carl and I are part of. I don't know if there is an opportunity to recruit for maybe one more member, if there is a person willing to join that committee.
Yeah, I think we
And
should
if
talk
it's
about that
out of
during
place,
the,
then that we can do it during the work plan.
yeah, the work plan update. We'll talk about that, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes, we need
But
another.
all of the things that you guys mentioned, Farida and Ellie, are really good points, and would really look forward to having some of that input so that, when we work to develop the master plan in detail, we'll have a running start. Thank you.
I would like to join the subcommittee for that effort.
Thank you, Commissioner Liu. We'll finalize that during the
Sorry, I
workload
jumped the
update.
gun on that one.
That's okay. I think we're pretty much done there. We'll confirm that, officialize it during the work plan update. Let's put it this way. Any other questions?
When do people get to speak? Yeah.
Very soon. Once, if the commissioners don't have any more questions, we're gonna take public comments on this particular agenda item.
Okay.
So if there aren't any more questions from commissioners, we can open the floor for public comments. Raise your hand if you want to make a comment.
Yeah, I do, because I really have a big concern. I have a very nice backyard, and I have 2 grand oaks. I've already commissioned out, an arborist that's been out twice. And I do know that a lot of the neighbors in my particular area, the country club area, we are concerned about existing trees. We don't mind, paying to maintain it, but I'd like to understand too, before, gets a little bit further, before I do donations and my other neighbors. I mean, what will we get to see from the city? Because I've already talked to my arborist. He's been out twice now. So I just want to understand, what are we going to do for the existing trees, around the city? And I thought this was part of Los Altos Hills. Am I incorrect? Is it just Los Altos or Los Altos Hills included in this discussion, master plan?
This is just Los Altos.
Okay, got it. All right, fine. Yeah, so I guess my big question, just to, parlay what Ximping was talking about, that we do need to preserve our existing trees, whatever it takes. Have we, put together a plan? I mean, is there anything in place, or have we thought about it? I'm opening it up for discussion.
I believe we have a heritage tree program, so that does preserve some of the older trees, but yeah.
Okay, so we have a heritage tree plan. Okay, so that's is it well funded? We don't know that. Okay, all right.
So I'll just offer, I don't know if this is meant to be a discussion, but I'll just offer that this commission, and potentially together with other commissions, is working towards putting together a comprehensive urban forest master plan, which should then, one of the things within that would be protecting the existing trees and developing the funds to, for their care, as well as replacement if one has to be taken out. But again, that's just
Is it too early?
informational, early days, yes.
Okay, so there's no time frame set. Is that what I'm hearing?
We are starting the planning process of it, so there is no specific time frame yet. I think that we have a subcommittee in place that will be working specifically on that, and we'll have regular update at environmental commission meetings about the process of the development of this plan.
Oh, good, because I can share with quite a few of my neighbors then. All right, okay. I mean, we're willing to spend the thousands of dollars to preserve our beautiful trees in our area. So I just wanted to let you know, I think that there is going to be a strong dedication for us up here to probably pump in quite a bit of funding, I mean, this is something that, a lot of us have discussed in my neighborhood, and we are interested. So when I told them that I was going to be part or discussing this with the Greentown, a lot of people did seem very, very interested. So just let us know what it takes to get this going, because I've seen the process myself. So I just want to understand.
Thank you, Betty, for your comments. Do we have any other public comments on this agenda item? I don't see any hands raised. There's someone on the phone, but I don't. No. Okay.
That's a duplicate attendance because somebody's laptop wasn't working properly. So they are also on the phone.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Farida. Thank you, Eli, for coming to present your the results of your findings to the Environmental Commission. We're looking forward to receiving the full report. I liked what I saw. There are some good ideas in there, and I think obviously the subcommittee will be working with Greentown in that process. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. We have an agenda item about water conservation, and we will have two presentations. The first one will be by California Water Service, CalWater. Do we have someone from CalWater here to make a presentation to us? We
do. We have two of us here.
Thank you.
To talk water this evening. Thanks for having us. We're trying to decide which is the best way to move forward with displaying the presentation. And so, Anthony, do you want to try sharing?
Yeah, let me try it on my end here.
If that doesn't work, I can share mine.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Perfect.
I can see it. So I'll go ahead and kick us off. Thank you, first of all, for having us. This is great to talk about water. It's always nice when we meet people who care. A lot of people don't think about us or think about water. They just like to turn on their faucets. So it's really nice to have people who understand that this is a limited resource and really want to make a difference. So Anthony, if you wanted to advance. So I said, my name's Dawn Smithson. I'm the district manager for the Los Altos Suburban District. And then I have Anthony Meyer, who's our conservation coordinator. He's the most popular person at the company right now. He's being pulled a million different directions. So thank you, Anthony, for joining us tonight. Next slide. So I just want to give really a 2-second high-level overview of who we are as a company, because we tend to confuse people. We're actually a fairly large company. CalWater, we're in 5 states, Texas, New Mexico, Hawaii, Washington, with the largest base of our customers in California. But advance one more slide. This is our home. This is where we are. This is, where I love to serve our customers, and our employees love to serve our customers. And so we have 26 districts that we own or operate in California, and this is ours here in the Los Altos Suburban District. We serve Los Altos and portions of Los Altos Hills, Cupertino, Mountain View, and Sunnyvale. 70,000 people through 19,000 service connections. And why I think that's unique and special is because, we're actually a fairly large company, but we really get to operate with our residents and our customers like a mom and pop shop. That's what I like to call us. And that's why our employees like to treat our company too. But if there is something urgent or at the drop of a hat, I need to snap my fingers. I have the backing of a large company. If there's an emergency, I can snap my fingers and have people coming from all over the state to help us here in Los Altos, and vice versa. We've done the same thing. There have been emergencies in other parts of the state, and we've supported those emergencies. And so not only do we get to support other water companies, but then we end up coming back with that experience and have that high level of expertise local in the district. So I'm going to turn it over to Anthony, because he's going to talk about the topic at hand. But thanks for giving me a second to kind of just show you who we are.
Thank you, Dawn, and good evening, everyone. I appreciate the time to have your ear. I just want to touch on this slide just a little bit. This kind of just gives a timeline to show the progression of events as we've kind of moved into the drought. Primarily, when we really started seeing things starting to go south, obviously we're proactive. We're constantly monitoring our water supplies on a daily basis. So we tend to see the red flags pretty far in advance. So we get our balls rolling and start putting our minds together of how we're going to mitigate that and obviously navigate those, trying situations. So as of last year in 2021, on October 20th, we filed stage 2 of our water shortage contingency plan with the CPUC. And after it was approved on December 14th, stage 2 of our water shortage contingency plan went into effect. And that included, obviously, all the irrigation day restrictions and things like that went into effect. So one of probably the biggest things that we're trying to become even more and more proactive with is with outreach. As we've moved into stage 2, one of the things we're finding is a lot of people just aren't necessarily aware of even the existing water use restrictions that were already in place prior to stage 2. And so, we've been just really ramping up our outreach with regard to radio ads, newspaper ads, social media posts, webinars. We've been doing a lot of public presentations in person and virtual, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed and get the general public to know even these original prohibited uses of water. A lot of people, they were aware of them and maybe they thought they kind of went away, but they've still been in place. And then also make people abreast of the new restrictions that are involved with us now being in stage 2. So probably one of the most notable changes as we have moved into stage 2 are our irrigation day restrictions. It's everybody's favorite. For the Los Altos Suburban District now, the watering days are limited to 2 days a week, and that is based upon the home or the business's ending number of their address. So for street addresses that end in an odd number now, watering days are going to be Tuesdays and Saturdays. If it ends in an even number, Wednesdays and Sundays are the watering days, and not between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And that's actually a very crucial portion of the effectiveness of irrigation day restrictions. Between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., that's typically the warmest parts of the day. So that's when we tend to see the most water loss with regard to irrigation by means of evaporating water. So if we can, keep their watering before 8 a.m., basically into the cooler times of the day, obviously that's going to maximize the efficiency of watering those irrigation zones. I will point out that there is exceptions in stage 2 of our plan with regard to watering these zones. Now, if any irrigation zones use drip or micro spray forms of irrigation, we consider those to be high efficient methods, obviously, of watering because it's delivering the water directly to the root of each individual plant as opposed to just spraying it all over the place. So any irrigation zones that do use drip or micro spray, they are actually not limited to the watering days or the times. And that's a really important note to make sure that gets out to the public, especially with regard to like city properties. And as you kind of discussed earlier with trees, we're really trying to make sure people are aware of the effectiveness of this and, look into the opportunities that are there for areas of turf that maybe they can't water as much or anymore at all. Retrofitting those existing irrigation zones over to drip irrigation and running the drip over to the trees so we can keep those trees alive because that's crucial. Probably the next most notable thing with moving into stage 2 is the PUC has authorized us to now imply penalties in the event that somebody's recurrently doing water waste violations. I'd like to preface this by saying, though, that as a company, obviously, the last thing that we want to do is police our customers. In the past, we've been wildly successful with meeting all of our conservation goals and targets strictly through just outreach and having, good correspondence with our customers. 9 times out of 10, if somebody's watering on the wrong day or they're, causing a violation of some sort, it's just a matter of picking up the phone and reaching out to them and having that first conversation and making them aware of it. And 99% of the time that nibs the problem in the bud, and then we can move on. But, there are handfuls of people that, they really don't care about conservation. They're not going to go along with the program. So for those types of situations, we do actually now have a penalty structure that's in place. For a first violation, like I mentioned, we're going to reach out to the customer. For a second violation, it can involve a $50 penalty. For a third violation, it can involve a $100 penalty, and that can be on a per day basis if that violation continues to occur. And for fourth and more egregious intentional type violations, it can actually result, we're actually authorized to install a flow restricting device on that customer's service line. So if it gets to that level of it, obviously that tends to get people's attention. So one of the biggest things we're doing right now is really ramping up education. We now know that 60 to as much as 80% of domestic water is applied toward outdoor use, and that's irrigation. And then the largest percentage of that does in fact go towards turf. So there's a lot of different things with we're kind of asking people to rethink how they water, what types of landscape that they're having, if they're changing their landscape to maybe look into something that's going to be a lot more sustainable. So, one of the things we ask people is to, evaluate their irrigation system, see if it's current and up to date. Is it using the most efficient, methods of delivering water? Obviously adjusting their watering schedules to meet the new requirements, installing smart irrigation controllers, anytime possible, converting any overhead spray sprinklers, which are highly wasteful, to drip irrigation wherever it's applicable. And then last but definitely not least, converting areas of ornamental turf to drought-friendly landscaping. And also making people aware that this doesn't have to be an all or none type of a scenario, because a lot of people, maybe you have 2 acres of beautiful grass at your house. But if you could convert that, even a fraction of that, a third of it, half of it to, drought-friendly, sustainable, native landscaping, it's really amazing the impact and footprint that has on reducing the water use on each individual person's property. And it's just about education and kind of showing people what those types of landscapes look like. In recent months, we've definitely really ramped up our conservation rebate programs. In many cases, we've actually as much as doubled the rebates amounts for obviously internal things like clothes washers, toilets, smart irrigation controllers, sprinkler nozzles. We have a lawn to garden program now for both commercial and residential, and a spray to drip program, which I'll touch on. But the incentives are there where, I think it's just a matter of making sure that people are aware of these programs exist and that we're here to do whatever we can to try to get people to engage with these programs. And we've also we've ramped up our commercial rebates just as well for similar devices, but also devices that are more specific to commercial applications. And we also we rolled out what we call a customized incentive program. So any type of commercial customer, if we can identify like a really niche or boutique type of a conservation program, and we can put a price point on that for how much water savings that will amount to, we can actually custom tailor a specific rebate amount or dollar amount to incentivize it specifically to that industry or that customer's business. So it kind of lets us color outside the lines a little bit, if you will. This has exploded since we rolled it out. This is our Smart Landscape Tune-Up program, and this is available to all Cal Water customers. Basically, what this looks like is you can go on our website in just a matter of a few minutes. You can sign up at calwater.com/tuneup. At that point, once we verify you and your customer, we have a contract with Valley Soil, which is a very large landscape contractor, and they're going to contact you directly. And reach out to the customer. They're going to schedule an appointment to come out to their home or business. And they're going to do, when they get there, they're going to do a thorough evaluation of that existing irrigation system. They're going to turn everything on. They're going to look for leaks, breaks, if there's outdated equipment or non-efficient equipment. And they're going to make basically like a full recommendation of all the things that could be done to maximize that irrigation system and make it the most efficient. Then they turn that over to us. Once we approve it, they schedule a second appointment to come back out to that home or business, and they're going to perform all of those repairs, upgrades, installations, completely free of charge to the customer. They actually do all the work. They send us the bill, and we pick up the entire tab. So as you can imagine, this has become very popular since we first rolled it out. And this is available to anyone serviced by Cal Water. And last but not least, we have our lawn to garden and spray to drip rebate programs. These are hugely impactful. Basically, it's kind of a newer version of what you used to see in the past droughts with the turf buyback program, where we're just encouraging customers to take a second look at those large areas of turf and convert them to sustainable drought tolerant landscaping. In the past, there was the term xeriscape that got tossed around a lot, and it kind of left a bad taste in people's mouths because people envision palm desert type landscape where you have to put in cactuses and aloe veras and things like that. But fast forward to 2022, we have expanded the plant list. There's hundreds and hundreds of beautiful plants that are approved. They're California native plants. And the cool thing is because these plants are from our environment here. Once you get them in the ground and you get them established, they're designed to flourish and look beautiful with just what nature provides instead of having to water them. You may have to give them a little drink every once in a while, but for the most part, these beautiful landscapes just sustain on their own. So for that program, we've actually upped the rebate amount for any turf that's removed to $3 per square foot, as long as 50% of that area is converted to approved drought tolerant landscaping. In addition to that, we have a spray to drip program, which offers an additional 50 cents per square foot for that same area that you remove the turf, as long as the overhead spray sprinklers have been converted to more efficient drip irrigation. So a total of $3.50 a square foot is available for customers with this program. I would point out it does require pre-approval, so we want to make sure that people go on our website and they sign up and they get that pre-authorization before they start ripping their turf out. But yeah, very, very efficient program. And we have hundreds of people doing these right now throughout the state. And last but not least, it's always good to show our conservation report in the Los Altos Suburban District alone. Just 2020 programs that were implemented and taken advantage of by our customers are going to, in long term, they're going to save 35 million gallons of water. So these programs work, they're impactful, they're trackable. It's really just a matter of getting the word out and making sure people are aware of what exists out there and what resources they have at their disposal. I always recommend people go to our website on our conservation page and just take a look, because you could find just a plethora of really awesome information there to kind of help you meet your conservation goals at home and kind of help, impact the community at whole. Yeah. And this last slide just kind of shows our, for Los Altos Suburban District, it shows the gross gallons per capita per day. So this is basically like your gallons of water that are applied to a household over the period of time from 2002 to 2021. I like to show this because it does show a trend. Even though we see some ups and downs throughout those years, we do see a consistent going down. And that's also considering the fact that population growth has occurred, between 2002 and current. So I think it's important to point out that engagement in these programs, changing landscape over to things that are more sustainable, they have a permanent, effect on water conservation. So, if you upgrade appliances and you change landscape, we can continue to see this downward trend even in the face of upwards population growth. So I think it's really great to point out. And another thing I did want to point out too is we did get our most recent report in. So for the Los Altos Suburban District, out of our 15% water reduction goal for the month, we are now at 14.2%, I think, percent. So we're very close to reaching that goal. And I think if we continue, obviously having these conversations like we're having and education, I think we're going to continue to see that come down. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Anthony. Very useful and interesting report. I'm sure a lot of us have learned something. So I'm going to again open the floor to questions from commissioners on the presentation and any other questions they may have for Cal Water.
No, that was really good. I enjoyed that, Anthony and Dawn. That was a good presentation.
Betty, I'm sorry, Betty. Only the commissioners right now.
Oh.
Thank you, Benny and Donna. I really appreciate the whole presentation. I would love to hear more about the rebates, which are the most impactful. And so, what could we potentially prioritize in terms of educating people about?
I would say, obviously, like I touched on, the most impactful, like we know that large percentage of water goes towards outdoor use. So as course, we're always, encouraging people to upgrade their toilets and purchase high efficient indoor things. We know most of that water goes outside. So, and like I said, most of it goes towards watering turf. So that's one of the main reasons we've really ramped up our rebate amounts for converting those turf areas into sustainable landscape, because we can track that even over just a period of a few months, and it's immediately trackable. We can see what those consumption and reduction numbers look like right away, and we know that because now that's a permanent change to that landscape, it's going to have a lasting effect on, obviously the conservation portion of it. So I would say the lawn to garden program is probably, for me personally, that's the one I'm pedaling the most. I think that's the most impactful. Like I said, it's just a matter of getting people to engage in those programs, and obviously also educating them on what that type of landscape looks like, and that it can be beautiful. It can look absolutely amazing in your yard.
Right.
Excellent. Laura?
So, yeah, I just wanted to ask what methods are you using to promote the rebate programs to Los Altos customers? And then a second question, I think I asked this last time Cal Water presented and wanted to make sure the answer's probably still the same, but that the smart meters are still not cost efficient or cost effective if we were gonna look into that.
I can answer your second question. We've actually been given it wasn't actually, it's a little bit of a complicated scenario to how or why or when we can install AMI or smart meters. And we've been advocating for it for a long time, especially here on the peninsula, because we really know our customer base wants this. They actually kind of need it, to be honest, because we have such beautiful landscaping and such a lot of people have very vast yards that it's impossible to see where you have those leaks in your irrigation system. And we want people to be able to identify when they have leaks, because it can go unnoticed until you get your water bill the next month. So that's not good for conservation. It's not good for, the bottom line and people's pockets. So we've actually gotten permission to install approximately 600 smart meters in our Los Altos Suburban district. We're going to start putting them in places that are dangerous for our meter readers to get reads, like on busy roads and places like that. But we see this as an extremely positive sign that the commission who approves our capital projects will be more open to allowing us to install more next time. And so rest assured, I'm going to be fighting for Los Altos and the rest of my cities and communities to get this.
If I could chime in also, we do, in lieu of supplementing that, we have actually just done a partnership deal with Flume Technologies. I don't know who's aware of exactly what that is, but basically what it is that it's a retrofit version of a smart meter or AMI metering that can be installed by the customer very simply. It actually just Velcros or rubber bands onto the meter itself. We just did a pilot program with it where we're making those available. We're paying 3/4 of the cost of it if a customer wants to obtain one of these, and it gives you information on how to install it. And it provides the same type of technology. It does report, it has an app, it'll show you, and you can get notifications if your meter's turned for an extended period of time. It looks like maybe there's a leak to be looked into there. So we're rolling it out currently. There's going to be information going out in this month's water bill to everyone with some more information on how to obtain those devices. And like I said, it's a pilot program, so it is fairly limited, but we are going to monitor that and see how much engagement we get with it, and then decide if, in the meantime, if that's something we can continue to supplement and ramp up.
I like that.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Yeah.
We can't hear you, Rashina.
Oh,
Tom, unmute. He's muted.
Did we lose Rashina? Okay, Tom.
yeah, quick question, and maybe the subcommittee already has this data, but wondering if we have a breakout of how many people, what percentage of the Los Altos population has taken some of these actions through some of the incentive programs you offer.
Yeah, I think we do monitor that, and we have been doing reports, and this is actually a request that we've been getting a lot more and more frequently. But I would be happy to, obviously we can't divulge personal information, but we can definitely give you the kind of numbers that would give you an idea of how much engagement we're getting in a specific area. That would be no problem whatsoever.
Rashina?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so my question was, how does water usage, vary across the seasons? And I know we hear a lot about water conservation during the summer, but I'm wondering if there is also an opportunity to save water during, fall, spring, and rainy season, especially where folks continue to, irrigate their lawns when it's not needed. Do you have a sense of, how much water, is it primarily during the summer that we use that water for irrigation, or does it, spread across the year?
It does spread across the year. I think basically what we notice is obviously we see that usage kind of migrate from outside to inside. Not that the inside changes too much because people's patterns of behavior are typically the same year round. But kind of as I mentioned, the imposing those little changes to the inside of each home or business and having those high efficient devices, those are a year-round type of savings. And that's obviously in the colder months when we're not irrigating outdoors, that's where those can be impactful, and those have a lifetime effect as long as that person occupies that house and continues to use those high efficient devices.
I guess my question was, are we making sure that people are not irrigating outdoors when they don't need to?
So as far as stage 2 is concerned, in our water shortage contingency plan, those measures and enforcement are not going to go away coming seasons. We're going to continue to monitor that. People are really good about tattling on their neighbors and things of that sort too. So, we're always going to continue that outreach and year round.
Okay. And then a second question was about the lawn to garden program. I know you mentioned that there's a pre-approval process. What does it take, if someone's just thinking about it, what does it take for them to get the rebate? How difficult, onerous, easy is it?
We've actually simplified it quite a bit more from what it used to be in the past. Everything basically occurs inside of an online portal that we have now that you can access through our website. Just takes a few minutes to create a login. And then once you get in there, it kind of walks you through, takes your hand and walks you through the process. The requirements for it are pretty much some pictures of your lawn, just to verify that it's actually a lawn and it's in somewhat tacked. And then some rough design of what your plan is as far as, the turf areas and the plants that you're going to plant. And we've now migrated our list of approved plants. There's hundreds of them in there now that are in the portal. So as you select your plant list, it will actually populate the mature diameter of each one of those plants and let you know how close you are to reaching that 50% requirement.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay,
so I had a few questions for you, Don and Anthony, actually. One had to do with communication, and I think Laura asked that question already. I wanted to see, understand what you're doing, and two, try to see whether there's anything we can do to help you communicate, what's in place right now, and what the options are for upgrading your irrigation system. I like what you said about the tune-up. I didn't know about it, so. Obviously, it's a very exciting and interesting program that you have. We should all do that and have the irrigation system tuned up. And then the third question I had, I'm going to give you all the questions and feel free to answer as you wish. But the third one has to do with violations. And I want to understand how that works, because obviously you can enforce now, which is good. But the question is, how do you know what's happening in every single backyard?
I'll work that one backwards, Don.
Yeah.
So with regard to the violations, it is, we have permission from the PUC. To be very transparent, it's still a work in progress. We haven't reached any significant level of enforcement with any of our customers to date that have escalated up to those more serious measures. And as always, we mentioned we're trying to reach out and just have those conversations first. But the way that's structured is pretty much we're not going to people's homes and writing them tickets per se. We have to track that, and it has to be obviously it comes on a reportable basis. Like, we're not driving around looking for people doing violations, but word of mouth is typically the way that those first points of contact occur. But we also can't take word of mouth with regards to violations. We have to actually put eyes on it. So when we see those continue to come in, obviously we're going to have a Cal Water employee go out and try to put eyes on it and see it, so we can actually verify that it is in fact happening and it's not a neighborly dispute type of a situation. So we do have to physically see it. At that point, we will make contact with the customer, try to educate them about it. And if it continues to occur, we keep a record of it. And if it does result in one of those penalties occurring, those basically occur in the form of kind of a billing, it's tacked onto their bill, basically. So it's not like a fine or a ticket per se, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a stab at one of your other questions as far as, and because I remember Laura did ask another question and I forgot to answer it. As far as what we are doing to advertise and market our programs, we do what we can. We have, PSAs, and, we have the radio and newspaper, and we even have movie theaters, although I know people aren't always going to movie theaters anymore. We try to let people know about them through mailers. But, to be honest, I feel like a lot of our customers miss those methods of communication. They have their own, favorite podcast that they get their news from, or, somebody else will help them open their mail, or, I just feel like that there's ways that we're missing the education to our customers, specifically here on the peninsula. And so I think that's where I would really request or solicit assistance from organizations such as this. If you have areas that our customers, your residents, frequent, we'd love to have that information. We'd love to give you the information, and maybe you could post it on a website that that they go to regularly. Anthony has them all ready, printed and formatted with pretty colors and things like that. And so we'd love to share that information with you, and you can maybe disseminate it or let us know where to disseminate where our residents and customers might see them.
Yeah, that would be useful, because I think we have different ways of potentially communicating with local residents, although we struggle with that too. In the work that we're doing, we're trying to reach out to the community, and sometimes it's not that simple. But maybe we have some ways of reaching some residents that would be different from yours. So I think any information you can give us, and Ranu can be your contact for that. Any information you can give us in terms of what we should say, or what kind of data or information we should communicate, we'll try to find ways to do it the most efficiently possible. So I think that would be good if you could do that, because I think also you have very interesting rebate programs. I did the tune-up program specifically. I think it's very interesting. It's free. We should all go through that and have our not loan, but backyard and front yard checked. So I think that's very useful. The other point I wanted to make also, it's about smart meters, and I think that was already mentioned. I think I read some data some time ago showing that the installation of smart meters reduced the water consumption, because people were able to know exactly what they were using for what. And I think it would be, and I know it costs some money, but I think moving towards a smart meter system for every single residence, whether it's commercial or residential, in Los Altos would be, particularly in Los Altos, obviously, would be very useful. But I'm not sure, if you have a time frame for that, or what the status is.
I agree with you completely, because what I've noticed about the San Francisco Peninsula is most of our residents are extremely driven, and usually that translates to some sort of competitiveness, even good-natured. People want to see that they're doing better than they did before. And I think that is just a great tool that we should be able to provide to our customers. And I'm working on that. But in the meantime, we would encourage people to take advantage of the program that Anthony mentioned, the Flume, until we can get those in permanently for you, hopefully in the next few years.
Thank you. Any more questions from the commissioners? No? So we'll open the floor for the public. And if we have public comments, raise your hand. I see two hands raised, Gary Hayden and Hannah Cushing. Maybe we'll start with Gary. I think Gary had his hand raised since the beginning.
Hello, thank you, Bruno. First a comment and then a question. Greentown, in addition to the 2 interns who was presented tonight on the tree master plan, has 2 other interns in our summer program, and they're working on creating great ideas on drought tolerant landscaping. And their report will be available to you in a couple of weeks or so, I imagine. And I see that Hannah Cushing has her hand raised, and she is one of those summer interns working on that program. The other one is Naina Srivastava. So heads up, there is information coming on landscaping. The question that I have is getting back to what Anthony was talking about, this Flume Technologies smart meters. I read somewhere that it's a $50 system installed by the homeowner. I think that's pretty exciting. I wouldn't mind doing that myself. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't speak to the technology infrastructure particularly. What I do understand, I have seen these demonstrated. But yeah, it's typically a $200 item and or $199, and I believe with our rebate, it's an instant rebate at the point of sale on the Flume website, as long as they follow the link, the Cal Water link that will be provided on the bill insert. And it is super easy to install, and it does provide all that same technology. From what I've seen, pretty much anybody can install it. It basically has kind of a rubber band, and it works on the side of the meter dial. So it's the most accessible point. If you can locate your meter, obviously is just slapping this little guy on top of the thing, and then putting the application on your smartphone, and then following the steps to calibrate it. And it kind of from that point just takes over, and it keeps you up to speed with your, and it's interesting because it figures out an algorithm of your water use, and it's able to, I don't know how, but it's able to identify when you're taking showers and when you're irrigating, versus flushing a toilet and things like that. So it can create an algorithm, and it can actually kind of show you where your water inside the house is used most frequently, and where your outside water use occurs the most. So it's really cool technology. I recommend anybody and everybody taking advantage of it, at least right now while it's a pilot program. And then because the more engagement we get in that, obviously it's going to determine whether we can continue to ramp that up.
That's great. And I've heard that it's really very accurate. You can spot some pretty small leaks.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And if I could just digress for a moment and comment on your first comment. Really impressed with Farida's and Ellie's presentation. And I just want to say, I think that they're phenomenal young ladies, and I would love the opportunity to work with them more on drought tolerant plants. They're very composed and smart, very bright, compassionate, driven. I think we need to watch where these 2 end up, and try and get them on board with something we're doing locally before someone snatches them up.
I couldn't agree more.
It's your next summer internship at Cal Water.
Cal Water. Let me know.
Cushing, you wanted to make a comment?
Hi, so as Gary said, I'm also an intern at Greentown Los Altos, and I'm working on the drought tolerant landscaping project that we have going on. I just had like 2 kind of quick questions. So one of them is about your lawn to garden program. Is there a minimum requirement for like the amount that people need to like convert or like remove?
Yeah, we have a 50% replenishment requirement. If you take out 100 square feet of turf, just as an example, 50 square feet of that's going to have to be replenished with drought tolerant landscaping. And we have what we've done in the portal is we've added in all of our plant lists, and then also we will now accept approved plants that are drought tolerant and considered native that are even outside of that. There's a WCLOS database that we pull from also, and UC Davis also has an updated plant list too that are drought tolerant. So any of these plants can be rolled into it, and in the calculator that we have on our website now, as you put those plants into your planting plan, it's going to actually calculate the diameter of that plant once it's reached its full maturity. So it kind of helps you see how close you are to meeting that 50% requirement.
Mm-hmm. So you talked a little bit earlier in your presentation about like doing smaller like areas, I think, instead of converting like, everything, because that's a pretty big jump. So like, is there like a minimum requirement for like the area that you could convert?
Yes, for residential, it's 250 square feet and a maximum of 1,500 square feet. And we do have the ability in certain particular circumstances, depending on the landscape and the size of the property, we do have the ability to lift that cap if we can quantify what the water savings are going to be with regard to it. And then for commercial, it's a little larger. It can go as large as 10,000 square feet.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question was, is it possible for people who have like already converted their lawns who like maybe hadn't taken advantage of the rebates to take advantage of the rebates?
Unfortunately not at this point. This is a question I get asked at least 12 or 13 times a day. And it kind of stinks because, you know, these people they're trying to do the right thing. Obviously, whenever I go up the chain and ask about these, the answer that I get is these programs are designed to incentivize and maybe encourage people that weren't already thinking about doing these types of conversions. So that's kind of where that kind of always tends to fall. If it's somebody that's just in the very beginning stages of getting their project underway, typically what we can do, and I have done in the past, is we can get all their information together and we can try to expedite that pre-approval process so that they can still engage in the program.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any more public comments before we move on? I think that's it.
No, actually, I have a comment. I don't think people care so much about the rebates, to be honest with you. I mean, let's be honest. We got to cut to the chase. You know what it really is? We need to have some penalties because the wealthy people will pay the fines. I will tell you that. I've seen this numerous times. That's not going to be a problem, right? I think what you really need to do, and I've talked to other people, you need to really step it up. Step number 3, put the water restrictions on. Because when I've talked to people about that, they go, oh, that's when it catches their attention. When as soon as they hear that, they go, oh, I did not know this. And, the outreach, the best thing for Los Altos is us, the neighbors. I mean, it's kind of obvious, we're pretty, intelligent people. We're not concerned so much about the rebate. But what we want, and I know a lot of people that I've talked to, they are working with their landscapers to get that look. But, I really think if you really want to encourage this, you may want to push up the penalties, because as soon as I say, $50, $100 is nothing. Even, come on, we got to be really realistic. When they hear that you're going to put restrictions, that's when their ears perk up. But I don't know what type of restrictions. I just said, that's what I've heard. And they go, oh, well, now it's really caught a lot of people's attentions. So I just wanted to FYI you on that. I mean, I'll be more than happy to help and support you, because I walk around my neighborhood and I see some really green lawns, and I'm thinking to myself, so FYI, just telling you, that's what I've seen. That I'm just trying to relay that to Cal Waters. Just be realistic.
Thank you very much. I think I'm going to close this agenda item unless there is one last public comment, but I don't see any right now. So I close this agenda item. I would like to thank you again, Dawn and Anthony, for making the presentation, and it was very interesting, very informative, and then obviously we'll stay in touch and try to find ways of helping you with communication, at least in Los Altos. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is a presentation by Santa Clara Valley Water, the Valley Water District. And I think we have Rosarine. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And we want to thank the Commission for the opportunity to present to you this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. My name is Rosalind Butzeborg, and I'm here on behalf of Valley Water's Office of Government Relations. I'm also joined tonight by David Siddiqui. He is our consultant and expert on the Model Water Efficient New Development Ordinance, also known as MWENDO. David and I have been working behind the scenes to bring this ordinance to all of our municipal partners, and we really hope that Los Altos will be the first city in the county to officially adopt MWENDO. Go ahead and with that said, I'll hand it off to David to begin the presentation, and afterwards we'd be happy to take any questions.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks, Rosarin, and thanks to the commission for having us tonight. So yeah, again, my name is David Siddiqui, and I've been working with Valley Water on this ordinance for quite some time. And if we can, advance to we've got a timeline slide here that gives a little bit more detail in terms of sort of where the origin of this model ordinance came from. It actually originated back in 2015 with a Santa Clara County Water Efficient New Development Task Force that was had a lot of representatives from jurisdictions across the county and Sustainable Silicon Valley, Joint Venture Silicon Valley. They essentially kind of put together what measures they wanted to see included in the ordinance. And then over the following couple years, we really finalized the language and built it out such that it ties in quite nicely with Title 24 and the language there. And so we kind of finished the language just in time for the pandemic to hit. So we got a little bit hampered in terms of our outreach and adoption efforts. But here we are now. We have been working to introduce the ordinance to a lot of folks, including the City Council at Los Altos. What we're sort of happy to report now is that the timing is good in terms of the potential for adoption alongside the local amendments to Title 24 that occur every 3 years with that triennial update, and that's coming soon. And so, we think this is a great opportunity to roll this this ordinance into those other local amendments that are coming. So next slide. I can explain a little bit about what is in the ordinance. So again, it's focused on new construction, and it contains about 17 measures of water conservation, and they're really designed to be sort of customizable for each jurisdiction. So it's not like it needs to be adopted as one whole complete unit. Essentially, jurisdictions can decide if there are particular measures that they think are more or less relevant or applicable or desirable in their jurisdiction. You can essentially determine what those are, and then when you sort of customize the language down for your community, essentially, that's what you can do, is kind of pick them as you choose. So the categories are single-family residential, multifamily residential and non-residential, commercial facilities. We covered sale, installation of fixtures and fittings, landscape irrigation, and then swimming pool and spa covers. And I've got just a sort of one slide on each of those categories just to give a little bit more detail on what exactly is in there. So for single family residential, the primary two measures really here are reducing the amount of water waste when calling for hot water. So there's an amount of cold water that will come out of a fixture before the hot water arrives, and we're really trying to dial that back. And so there are a couple methods to do that, but really a demand-based recirculation pump is the sort of primary one that project applicants would use. And so that's the main piece there. We've coupled it with a drain water heat recovery device that goes on one of the showers to essentially offset the small but still existent pump energy use that will be needed, and that's essentially complies with CEC and CBSC requirements. And so everything that's actually needed to submit to the CEC and the CBSC for filing has already sort of been done and included as part of a package of resources that come with this ordinance, including a cost effectiveness analysis, not just for this measure, but actually for every single measure in the ordinance. The other residential piece, a single family residential piece, is Greywater dual distribution plumbing. We actually developed that measure in coordination with the Central Coast Greywater Alliance, who is putting together something similar. And so it's really sort of viewed as a sort of best practice measure for that one. And it can be complied with via pretty straightforward and not too expensive laundry to landscape systems. So that's that piece. And I do have here that we have a section for on-site treated non-potable water systems, but it's not really a requirement insofar as we'd be requiring treatment systems on residential homes. The language is more there for if a residential customer were to elect to install an on-site treatment system, this would just kind of govern some of the water quality aspects around doing that. It's sort of up to you if that would be something that you would want to include, but we wanted to make sure that language was there just in case. Next slide. So on the multifamily side of things, some pretty basic stuff here in terms of external faucet locks to reduce sort of water theft and water waste from that regard, water meters for sort of sub-units to make sure that each individual sort of even tenant maybe in a larger commercial complex would have access to their information and be able to identify and execute ways to conserve more water. There's a section on reusing the blowdown water from cooling towers. And then there's a large section on alternate water sources, which are basically taking advantage of recycled water when it's available within a certain distance from the property, or installing on-site treated non-potable water systems. And again, that's a much larger measure. It's one of the ones we think are actually maybe less desirable at this point in time for folks to adopt, because we think there's a little bit TBD and there's a lot of coordination that actually needs to happen in terms of water quality standards on that piece. And so that section may actually need to wait. So I kind of expect most jurisdictions would strip that part out at this point. Next slide. A couple basic ones in commercial facilities. We got a requirement for manually operated toilets and faucets with an exemption for facilities like healthcare facilities and airports. But there have been studies showing that the sensor operated toilets and faucets actually tend to increase water usage. So this would be an opportunity to try to reduce some of that. And then also there's a measure about maximizing water efficiency in commercial kitchens. Next slide. This one's pretty basic, but essentially requires that for any retail establishments selling plumbing fixtures within the community, they would have to be only selling fixtures that sit on a statewide maintained list of the sort of most efficient, water efficient products. And then if you're a plumber that's actually, acting as a service provider within the territory of the jurisdiction, that you would only be installing approved fixtures. So that's a kind of a pretty basic one there. Next slide. There is a little bit on landscape irrigation. I will say it's not much, and that was by design because we really didn't want this to overlap with the WELOs that have been adopted by all the jurisdictions in California. There, are already essentially landscape ordinances in place, and so we didn't want to overlap with that too much. But there are some areas where we thought that you could kind of go above and beyond the typical WELO that's adopted, and so we included those here. And so again, those are optional. And I think one of the things that we would expect jurisdictions to do as they're sort of customizing this ordinance for their own purposes is to maybe do a little bit of a sort of side-by-side comparison with the adopted WELO already in the community, and just see if there's anything from here that you might want to sort of add on to make that more aggressive. And then lastly, in terms of the measures, the swimming pool and spa covers. And, again, I mentioned, we have a lot of spots in this where we try to align the language with Title 24. Title 24 does cover requirements around swimming pools and spas, but it's only for those that are heated. So basically, and actually heated by a non-solar source. So any unheated pools or spas or solar heated pools or spas aren't covered by Title 24. And so this is sort of trying to fill that gap with a measure that would require covers on that to reduce the evaporation losses. So that's a quick flyover of the measures. You can kind of see there's, they were designed to be, not so much of a stretch, right? I mean, it's a reach code essentially, right, for water. And so the idea was that really we're hoping to make small improvements, but when, especially when they're coupled with new construction, these are brand new buildings that are going to be, lasting for a really long time. And so if we can get some water savings up front in the design and construction stage, that really has a large impact over time. So we're really excited about the potential there. So we put together, not only the ordinance itself that has all this draft language, we also put an overview document together that summarizes how the ordinance actually supports existing policies within each jurisdiction. We have that for Los Altos as well. We put together a staff report that could be a draft for like a council consideration and adoption. It has detailed background info and some of the key sort of like environmental bits of background on this. Again, we're really trying to make the adoption and implementation process as easy as possible for jurisdiction staff, because you know, we know what you know, how many items and elements are competing for staff resources, and so we really wanted to make it easy. We've got the cost effectiveness analysis report. Again, that's one of those required pieces for the CDSC and CDC, instructions for filing with them to make that super simple. And then we you know, offer ourselves up as support with adoption and implementation. So that's kind of the whole package. And next slide. That really brings us to next steps, and that's kind of where we are now, right? Is you know, where we've been introducing the, you know, the ordinance and the measures with folks, really trying to make sure that you know, the timing is lined up to take advantage of this alongside the Title 24 triennial update and any other reach codes that jurisdictions are also considering now. I know there's a lot of other sort of electric reach codes that are going around as well, and so. You know, that's really, you know, where we're at now. We see each jurisdiction as sort of maybe putting together some working sessions to figure out which of the measures they want to select for their community, and then finalizing the ordinance language based off of that. You know, and of course, you know, getting the section titles matched up with the municipal code, all that kind of stuff. And we are available to assist with all of those efforts. And so really, you know, we're just looking forward to you know, providing whatever support we can. You know, I don't know, you know, exactly what the next steps would be from Los Altos Environmental Commission's perspective in terms of, you know, following up with council and the city manager on all of that. But, you know, we're certainly, you know, very interested to hear, you know, what you all see as next steps and supporting however we can.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Rosarine. Maybe we can, I don't know if you, David, yeah, were you sharing the presentation?
That was Rosarine.
Okay, so maybe we can go back to stop the sharing. Thank you. All right, so I would like to open the floor for questions from commissioners about your presentation. So I have a few questions. If Laura first. Okay, Laura.
No surprise that I have questions. So you know, having worked on the reach codes for energy, I guess my main questions are around timing. So it does have to go through CEC review, if I'm understanding correctly, which is, you know, can be a month or 2 months long process. So my understanding is that you're hoping that you know, municipalities would adopt at the same time as adopting reach codes, which is basically by the end of the calendar year. Is that what? Okay. And if you build in the 60 or whatever days for CEC review, I'm just from a practicality standpoint, I'm just saying I don't see how Los Altos would achieve that. Seeing that there's, you know, all these options that you've laid out, the process would probably be to, you know, need to do a lot of public outreach and figure out what options we would want to adopt. So I guess I'm just clarifying that's kind of the goal you're setting out. And then, but given that we don't have yet a model water reach code, if we adopt it after the end of the year, that's also a possibility, which is what we did with our first reach code. Okay, just wanted to. You can modify the. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like there's a specific deadline. Yeah, I think ideally it would be, you know, adopted by the end of September. And so then, you know, you sort of hit that comment period and you could start with like an effective date of January 1st, like right away. And that would essentially align it with the Title 24 timeline. But there's nothing, I mean, that just sort of makes it marginally more administratively easy to because you're sort of doing two ordinances in one essentially, but like there's nothing really stopping you from doing it on a slightly longer timeline.
And a really wonky question, what part of Title 24 is modified?
So let's see. So the only measure that actually modifies anything or amends anything in Title 24 is that water heating piece. And so it's really just about like hot water, distribution. And so it's the piece that essentially it will just add some sections to like the residential hot water stuff around, minimizing the pipe lengths there's like, it gets kind of technical in terms of like what exactly is required in there. But yeah, that's the only measure that actually amends Title 24. Everything else in terms of the other measures, there's a lot of reference to like voluntary measures within Cal Green that are essentially already established. And what this model ordinance does in a number of cases actually just says, so that voluntary measure that currently exists, we're just going to make that mandatory for our purposes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Any other questions?
I have one question. Are there any misconceptions about what this essentially reach code would do that are good to address with the public to make sure there is broad support?
That's a good question. I mean, I think there's a couple that come to mind briefly. I mean, I think one would be probably like Greywater. Sometimes I think is a little confusing to folks. And like, I think maybe there might be an expectation that like, if it wasn't really clear to folks that like a laundry to landscape system would comply, maybe people might assume that like something more involved or expensive is required. So that might be worth making sure people understand. And then yeah, that's probably the major one. I think most people really in the community, I would say honestly, just knowing the circumstances we're in, I would expect you'd actually see really broad support. But to the extent you might have project developers wondering like what kind of costs might be added in terms of like being able to comply with a new project. There are some numbers in the cost effectiveness analysis that kind of include some assumptions on what those extra upfront construction costs would be, and so people can always reference that for more information. But and again, none of these are really super aggressive, so I think those are the kind of the main things I can think about in terms of like potential questions would just be about like cost impact.
Great, thank you.
So I had a few questions. You don't have to answer all those questions. I had a long list, so I'm going to try to make it short. But so first of all, I was wondering if, like the Reach Code, you would have any regular updates on this new ordinance? Or is that what you have now? It's up to us to adjust it and then potentially update it as we go?
Yeah. We definitely would, assist with any customization for Los Altos to, get it, get the sort of first model adopted. I don't really know about like what kind of resourcing might be provided in terms of like future updates. I kind of assume it would be, up to each jurisdiction just as part of, any other sort of ordinance review that they might be undertaking. So yeah, I don't know if Rosemary, you have any other thoughts on that, but yeah, I'm not aware of any additional support for updates that we're planning at this point.
Okay. So another question I had was your definition of new constructions. How do you define that in the ordinance?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for most measures, it's really, it's any like new building. So it'd be like any kind of like project that's submitting for a permit with the building department, right? And that would either be for a brand new building, or I think, if not all of the measures, I think we may have actually put in there for like alterations over like, some particular number of square feet, depending on the building type. So that would be sort of like large sort of additions or alterations as well. But that's one of the things we've actually, as we put together the ordinance, we actually highlighted, again, to make it try and easy for jurisdictions as possible, like highlighted the areas where it's like, this is a part of the thing that would need to be updated. So like, the section numbers and, if there's any reference like, oh, like the director of, you know, is it public works? Is it the building department? Like who's going to review like certain sections, right? Like where do some of the responsibilities lie? And even just like sometimes some of these departments have different names at different jurisdictions. So that's some of the stuff you might want to look at. And then thresholds is another big one where it's like, oh, maybe, you know, rather than 50,000 square feet, maybe, you know, the commercial buildings in Los Altos are a slightly different size. So you might want to apply it at 25,000 square feet instead, for example. So, you know, these are just sort of a few of the key things that we would actually encourage communities to kind of look at and customize as they're looking at how they're going to finalize the language for your own jurisdiction.
Okay. Yeah, I had also a question about cost. Specifically, I'm thinking about the water heating distribution issue, the installing a pump to reduce the amount of cold water that comes before you get the hot water. I'm assuming you have those costs in your analysis, right? And also I wanted to ask you whether there would be rebates or discounts or whatever that would be made available for people that would have to do that if we were to pass an ordinance like that.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So my understanding of the cost piece is, so for that measure in particular around the hot water distribution, that one is cost effective from day one. It already has like a benefit cost ratio over 1.0. So that's like one of the sort of clear winners, I would say, you know, a really easy one to justify over this, because even just from the expected water savings, the additional costs are deemed worth it. And that was actually true for, this was done both in the climate zone of Santa Clara County as well as all the climate zones in the state. And I believe that measure is cost effective in every single climate zone in California. So we made sure that as we designed the requirement, although, you know, some of the assumptions that went into the cost effectiveness analysis, like for example, the Greywater measure, right? I don't believe the cost effectiveness analysis assumed that anyone would be even, you know, getting some kind of a you know, incentive or a rebate for, say, like a laundry to landscape system. But, you know, because there are incentives available for that kind of thing, it would actually even make it even more cost effective, right, than what the analysis shows. Because, you know, as we saw from Cal Water's presentation earlier, right, like, you know, there are, you know, some good programs available to sort of make it even easier, even better for folks. So, yeah.
And so just one last question for tonight. I'm sure we'll have these discussions, more extensive discussions around this as we go. But the issue about plumbers and contractors, because I think what we find is, specifically with regards to the REACH code and trying to switch to electric appliances, we don't have a lot of contractors that are trained to install heat pumps, for example, right? So is that also an issue for this water ordinance? Would you need to train contractors and plumbers? Is there a program in place, or is that something that you don't believe is going to be an issue?
You know, it's a really interesting question. I think for the most part, I don't think it should be much of an issue. Like, and so, you know, as we were even, you know, interviewing and working with contractors as we were putting the ordinance requirements together, you know, for example, some of the stuff around like the way that the plumbing distribution system would be set up for hot water using a demand-based recirculation pump, you know, all the contractors that we spoke with, you know, were basically saying like, yeah, this is, you know, it's not necessarily the way we design every place now, but it's sort of like a best practice, and like we would know how to do it, you know, like kind of a thing. And same thing, like, you know, laundry to landscape systems, I think are, you know, common enough that, you know, folks can kind of figure it out. I mean, I think the difference might be in that, you know, it's going to have to be in the plans, the architectural plans and the project plans, you know, that get approved. And so I think, you know, sometimes, you know, there may be contractors who are seeing something a little different, you know, than they're used to seeing, but I don't think anything's so difficult or complicated or out of the ordinary that they wouldn't be able to figure it out. Or maybe they haven't even done it before. I think it would just be like, oh, okay, so this is, you know, we're doing it this way. All right. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And then,
I just have one more comment. I'm aware of this Bay Rent group, which they have energy advisor. Obviously, it's not just water related. So I just want to kind of reference to what Bruno just asked about, are you collaborating with Bay Rent group? You know, especially for residential customer who need consultation, you know, getting contractor referral, you know, when they had to do these kind of implement this kind of water savings appliances or energy saving things. So
I'm smiling really huge because I actually used to run that team that does the home advisor service for Bayran. But yeah, so very familiar with that program. That's focused on energy. Not water. So there's not a lot of overlap. I can see with that group here. But I think if there were, as particularly for any of the rebate programs that are available from like Cal Water or Valley Water, I mean, that's something they could consider doing, is making sure it's on the radar of the Bayran folks so that they could point homeowners in the right direction. But yeah, good point.
Thank you. Yeah, so the only thing is you mentioned the Valley Water contact, for to work with us on this. Obviously, if you could send that information to Ranu, that would be very useful, because we're obviously going to start working on this. As you mentioned, there is some interest from the council, from the staff as well. So the intent here is to start a subcommittee to work not just on that, but on water conservation. So we need those contacts, obviously, so that we can start working with you and staff on this.
That's great. Yeah, I think that would be Rosarin and myself. Is that right, Rosa?
Okay. Thank you very much. Do we have any comments from the public on this agenda item? Just comments, no questions. No? Okay, moving on. Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, Rosarin.
Thank you so much.
So, as I just mentioned, the next agenda item is talking about the water conservation subcommittee formation. It could have been discussed in the work plan, but I think it's important for us to have that discussion now. That was on hold up until now, but I think with things heating up a little bit around the water conservation and this emwendo as well, I think it's time for us to set up the subcommittee. We're going to have to work with staff on that ordinance. The timelines may not be exactly the end of the year or September or whatever it is, but I think we have something to work with. And then also the water conservation aspect would be the communication, mostly to residents, and figuring out exactly how we're going to do that. Let them know of all the rebates, the programs, and all the activities that they can have access to. So I would like to set up a subcommittee to work on that. I will need probably 3 members because it's going to be a lot of work. So if I know we're all very busy and we're all sitting on a bunch of subcommittees already, but if anybody is interested, please raise your hand. So I have Laura, Rashina, and Xiaoping. Thank you very much. So there we have our subcommittee. All right, moving on, let's talk about the work plan. So if you can go to the work plan, if you have it in front of you, maybe Radu, maybe you can, you have it accessible.
I can share it if you just give me a second.
All right.
I'm just going there.
Meanwhile, I can do my quick.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Laura,
update. I see that
No
you're
worries.
now online. I don't have any communication problems. So yeah, why don't you give us your update, please?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of report back as I've been attending Silicon Valley Clean Energy Member Agency working group meetings, and they're very informative, but I'll just highlight a couple of things that I thought were we should be aware of. And you've probably all kind of heard mention of the fact that the state regulators are anticipating, because of a lot of heat events this summer, and our some capacity coming off, drought that has created less hydroelectric and all these other issues, that they have kind of expanded their alert system, and they're going to be relying on demand response programs to help ensure that we can avoid power outages. So, SVC will be pushing those notices to the city and hoping that to get customer engagement in terms of, reducing energy use at peak times and the like, so that we can again avoid power outages. So just wanted to bring that up. And then we were talking about contractor training, and SVC has this contractor training program that is free to contractors in Los Altos, so that they can learn how to install heat pump water heaters, and they do have incentives to contractors to complete the online training. So if you have any way to get that, get that information, and we'll hopefully be working through the city to get that out there, which will be helpful, of course, in terms of, rolling our gas appliances into electric appliances. And then just wanted to highlight a couple of the current grant programs that SVC has, and they continue to add new ones all the time, but they're listed there. So I won't take any more time. They're listed in the packet, but just wanted to call out a few of those items.
Just a question, Laura, about the contractor training again. How effective are they at doing this, or with their communication and enrolling contractors in the program?
I do not know how many contractors have gone through it. I could try and find out. They might have already said it, but I do not know that.
Because I think that's key for us. Obviously, we need to have as many contractors as possible available to install electric appliances. So anything that can be useful, and I think I'm thinking about the next step, which is block power, which we'll briefly talk about. I think that's part of the services they can provide. So it very much depends on what SVC is also already working. So it would be useful to find out more about this.
Okay, yeah. So if you have other questions aside from, how many contractors have gone through the program, just let me know and I can ask at the next meeting.
Any questions for Laura? Okay, so let's do the work plan.
I'm sharing the screen. Just give me a second. Should I enlarge the font?
I think it's good, and if everybody can see it. All right, so I think that's good. So I can briefly talk about the first item on the work plan, which is the CAP implementation subcommittee. We met again last week, Rashina, Carl, and I, to talk about block power. I won't say any more than that. Just we are in discussion with them to have them come and make a presentation at the Environmental Commission, either in August or September, depending on what's possible on their hand. Reach codes. I know Laura and Tom, maybe you can give us an update. I know you have your study session tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's what we've mostly been working on. So just digesting the input we got from the commission last time, and then working on the presentation, which is similar but updated from the public workshops. And yes, we have our study session tomorrow starting at 6. So hopefully commissioners can participate if you're available.
Yes, please. If you're available, you should try to join the study session at 6 p.m. tomorrow, and you'll find the information about how to join on the website, the Los Altos website, in the council meetings and agendas. All right, greening city operations. So there is nothing to report on that. That's kind of an action item for the subcommittee, the CAP implementation. We've had discussions in the past about energy efficiency audits with many. I think we probably should, as part of next times we meet, try to have Manny again, have that discussion again. I think he was very open to it, obviously, but wanted some help in terms of how to do it through either PG&E or some other organization. So that's one that we probably, as a subcommittee, should rethink about. Gas-powered off-road engines, we don't have a subcommittee yet. I think we're going to wait until we have staff on board to, as we had discussed previously, before we do anything at this stage, because it's a lot about communication and we need staff help on all this. EV Fair, Carl, do you have an update for us on the EV Fair and your discussions with Greentown?
Yeah, only update is that I'll be talking with Suresh from Greentown on Thursday and getting more updates on how this is progressing.
Okay. And as soon as you have some kind of a plan, I think we should get in touch with the general manager, because we need to be able to provide them with the information they will need to facilitate the development and this EV Fair.
Okay.
And I'll just chime in that I believe one of the SEC grants, EV fairs, was one of the examples that they said would be an option for an opportunity to get a grant for. So.
Great.
Thank you.
Make sure it's on the radar.
All right. If there is nothing else on this one, I'll move on to the next one, which is about the urban forest management and the urban forest master plan. That was part of the discussion today. Commissioner Liu, I think, was wanted to be added to the subcommittee. Is that correct? Can we confirm this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think you, Carl, and Rashina had some discussions already about this.
Yeah, so we've been meeting weekly and then trying to compile just an overview, kind of somewhat like what the folks from Greentown presented, but a little bit more detailed, and then working. We met with Manny and with, as Carl mentioned, the urban forester at Palo Alto, who they have a pretty decent master plan. So they've been very helpful with giving us a lot of information. So what we're looking at, maybe a couple leveled approach, is one is, what do we need to get the full-fledged master plan going, which will require consultant and funding, etc. But before that, what can we do with smaller changes, say, to the tree removal ordinance, updating the tree list, and any things that we can, are really urgent that we get fixed while we're working towards the broader master plan. So those are some of the things that Carl and I have been researching and working on. Carl, do you have anything additional?
You covered everything.
Yeah. So we'll add Commissioner Liu to the group and figure out a mutually acceptable time to meet and continue on from there.
Okay.
And Rashina, Carl, and Xiaoping, let us know when you will be ready to make a presentation on where you are to the commission. Okay, next one is single-use plastic. That was tabled, and then again, we're waiting to have a full staff on board to be able to restart the work of the subcommittee. Obviously, a lot of what has to be done now is discussions and communications and surveys and so on, and feedback from restaurants and the food suppliers that would be directly impacted by this. So we'll wait until we have someone on board on the staff side to restart that committee. Water conservation, we just started a new subcommittee with water conservation, which will include working on the Mwendo as well as the communication around the drought, the level 2 water restriction, and what can be done, what rebates programs and other programs are available. So that will be added to the work plan. It's officially, as of today, a working committee, subcommittee. Thank you. The environmental webpage on the city website, do we have an update on that? Because I know we've had discussions about, in particular, making an update on the climate action adaptation plan page. I don't know if it's up and running. It wasn't last week.
I don't have any additional development to report on that. Hopefully between this meeting and the next, we would have achieved the updates that were identified as necessary for the web pages.
Okay. And then Carl, energy and water usage matrix. I don't know if you made any progress on that.
Yeah, it looks like our Colorado representatives fell off, but they sent an email essentially saying that it's very difficult to get that localized data, and they're following up with another person in Cal Water to see what's possible on that. And then with SVCE, they have a dashboard, but it requires a Los Altos government email address to use that dashboard. And so Renew and I are going to look into how that, if that's possible, or exploring another contact to get that usage data. Based on what I saw, it seems like the dashboard is their preferred method of sharing that, but we'll see if there's another means.
So maybe AIDA can help with that.
Oh, if you have the Los Altos California government email address, yeah, I'll get in touch with you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then the last one was assisting staff with various outreach and education efforts. I don't know if there is anything right now that staff would need from us. Aida, I don't know if there is anything you can tell us. You don't have to.
Yeah, Ranu, she forwarded me some information today. I'm gonna be looking at that and working with our PIO, Public Information Officer, on the information, on the outreach and education in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aida. Okay, that closes the discussion, I think, unless you have anything to add or other questions. City staff updates, I think Aida gave us the update about the hiring of the coordinator as well as the manager. Are there any other updates?
I don't have
any commission.
No additional updates. Those were the updates. Thank you.
Ranu, any updates? Anything?
No, the update that Ms. Fairman provided about the recruitment, that was it.
Okay.
And Councilmember Flagler has her hand raised.
All right, Councilmember Flagler, it's your turn.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have an announcement, but I had to come on to say a big thank you to the commission. This was an excellent, informative meeting. I enjoyed it. I learned so much listening in. I'm actually going to recommend tomorrow night to the City Council if they have the time to watch this meeting. It was very informative. Thanks for all the work that went into putting this meeting together. And welcome, Aida.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Flagler. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Any reports, comments from commissioners on anything, including the agenda items today? No? Okay. Any potential future agenda items?
I think we're full.
For next time.
even if we did updates on everything, we'll be full. I'm pretty sure that the reach codes will be.
We'll come
to
back,
be-
yes,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure too. And so all the other subcommittees, I would just encourage you to communicate with Ranu before the end of July if you want to discuss something or present something to the commission at the next meeting. All right, and that's it. I think we're done for the meeting for today. I just wanted to add one thing, and without going to have any discussion about it today, I think probably we'll put it on the next meeting agenda item. I wanted to have a chance for us to discuss potentially moving the meeting to a 6 o'clock start time. I know that there might be some conflicts for some of the commissioners, so I want to have that discussion next time. The benefit, in my opinion, is that there is a benefit to staff that they could be finished earlier. We can all be finished earlier. I think some of the commission starts at 6 o'clock, some even start at 5:30. So I think that's something that I wanted to have a chance to discuss with you, and we can decide one way or another. So if that's okay, I think we can put that on the next commission agenda.
I can say right now I do have a conflict, but I will
Okay,
check
so
into it.
we'll talk about
Yeah.
that. Thank you, Carl. So we'll put that on the agenda. We'll have a discussion around that. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, your participation to the meeting, and adding to that interesting discussion around the presentation that were made today. And have a nice rest of the evening. Have a nice week, and we'll meet again in a month from now. And good meeting to you, Tom and Laura and Don, who's not here, with the meeting tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.